Hello and welcome to SpeakNest English Podcast Zone. This is episode 50, and today we're going to learn how to talk about your home and neighborhood in English. Whether you're traveling, introducing yourself, or chatting with friends, this topic always comes in handy. Let's get started.
Hey, we're taking a practical plunge into something really personal, something universal, talking about your home and neighborhood. Our mission, really, is to get past the basics. We want to unpack a core set of keywords, some phrases, too, that'll, empower you to clearly and vividly express your space in English.
Yeah.
Think of it as a sort of shortcut. You'll be well-informed, not just about the words, but what they kind of signal.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that getting this vocabulary down, it isn't just about language skill.
Right.
It's really about sharing a crucial part of your identity, isn't it? Your life experience.
Definitely.
It lets you invite someone into your world, basically, even if they're miles away.
Yeah.
We're aiming for a depth here, something that helps you paint a really full, nuanced picture.
Oh, I like that, painting a picture. So, okay, let's start with the place itself, the dwelling. Beyond just saying house or apartment, what are we actually looking at?
Good question.
Is it maybe a detached house, standing on its own? Or perhaps semi-detached, sharing a wall? Could be a townhouse all in a row, or maybe a condo. That's where you own your unit within a bigger building, right?
Exactly. And then you have the classic British flat versus the American apartment.
Yes.
And it's not just about geography, is it?
No, it feels like more like a flat might make you think of something maybe older, higher ceilings, compared to a modern apartment complex.
Absolutely. The word choice itself adds that layer of context straight away. And, for those more unique spaces, we might talk about a bungalow. That single-story home often has a certain charm. Or maybe a loft, which usually suggests a big open-plan apartment, maybe converted from an old factory or something.
Oh, right.
Each term really conveys not just a structure, but kind of lifestyle, too.
That's where it gets really interesting, I think. So, okay, you figured out the type of place. How do we then sort of unpack the inside? Because it's not just kitchen and bedroom, is it?
No, not at all.
What actually brings those rooms to life in conversation?
Precisely. So take your kitchen. Is it an open-plan kitchen? Does it flow right into the living area? Or is it maybe a more traditional, sometimes narrow galley kitchen?
Okay.
Does it have a separate pantry for storage? Or maybe a little breakfast nook tucked away?
Nice.
And the living room, is it more of a cozy den for, smaller gatherings? Or a big, spacious, great room that's perfect for parties?
Right.
And then beyond the usual bedroom and bathroom, you often hear about master suites, maybe guest rooms, and often a utility room for laundry, or maybe a home office, which is so important now.
So true.
And let's not forget the attic or the basement. They often hold hidden stories about the house, its history, or potential,
Those details, they just make all the difference. And it's not just the inside, is it? The outside features, they often really define the character of a home and how you use it.
Definitely.
We're talking about more than just, say, a garden or a balcony.
Indeed. Think about a patio maybe for eating outside.
Yeah.
Or perhaps a deck that's perfect for a grill.
Yeah.
Does the house have a welcoming porch out front?
Yeah.
Or maybe a long driveway leading up to a two-car garage?
Right, practical things too.
These elements, they don't just add space. They really shape how you live in and around your home, which raises an important question. What about the area around the home?
The neighborhood. Yes. This is where you really invite someone into your world, I feel.
Totally.
It's not just where your house is, but the whole vibe, the atmosphere. Is it like a bustling urban neighborhood full of energy, or maybe a quiet residential area with, tree-lined streets?
Exactly. Or perhaps it's an up-and-coming district.
Oh.
Lots of new shops, restaurants opening up.
Or the opposite, a sleepy suburban community known more for parks and being family-friendly.
Right. And knowing if it's, say, walkable to amenities, like cafes, grocery stores, or if it's close to public transport, that tells someone so much about the daily experience.
Yeah, how you actually live day to day.
Or maybe it's a rural setting, which offers peace and quiet, but you probably need a car for everything. These terms just paint a much, much richer picture than simply giving an address.
So, wrapping this up a bit, what does this all mean for you listening?
Well, the value here is pretty immense, actually. These words, they might seem simple, but when you use them with a bit of precision, with context, they become really powerful tools. Tools for painting that clear, vivid picture of where you live.
Yeah.
You're not just describing walls and a roof. You're sharing a piece of your daily life, your comfort zone, your community.
Absolutely. Understanding these terms, and more importantly, using them, lets you move beyond just describing a physical place. You can genuinely invite others into your personal world, into your story. And as we think about all these different words, these nuances, it leads us to a pretty interesting point of reflection, actually. So here's something for you to think about. Considering your home, your neighborhood, everything around it, which single word or maybe short phrase from this deep dive really captures the unique essence of your space, and maybe why? Doing a deep dive into something, well, pretty personal, how to really talk about your home, your neighborhood in English. Our mission here isn't just, listing facts. It's about giving you specific, strong phrases, words that don't just state things, but actually evoke the real feeling of where you live.
Right. And what's really interesting, I think, is how even simple sentences can become so much more descriptive.
Yeah.
Our sources really show this. The power is in tapping into sensory stuff, emotional language. So instead of just, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor, which is fine, but
A bit flat.
a bit flat, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll explore how adding those specific adjectives, sure, like cozy, spacious, bright, but maybe also stronger verbs, the right word combinations. How that can build a really vivid picture. It just makes it easier for you to share the unique character, the whole atmosphere of your place.
Okay, and this is where it gets genuinely interesting for me. It's moving past just like naming objects. Our research really points to this. Good description means inviting the listener into your experience, your sensory world. Take, my house has a small garden in front. It's okay. It tells you something.
It's a starting point.
It's a start. But the sources suggest words that really activate the senses. Maybe it's a sun-drenched pocket garden, vibrant with herbs, or a serene, low-maintenance garden, perfect for morning coffee. It's about the experience it gives you.
Exactly right. And for inside the house, think about the mood, the atmosphere you want to convey. Is it just a living room? Or is it maybe a cozy, sun-drenched living room where the afternoon light just spills onto the rug? And that spacious kitchen, let's elevate it. How about a bright, airy kitchen, the real heart of our home, perfect for those bustling family dinners? You're painting a picture that's about feeling, not just dimensions.
That makes sense.
And think about verbs, too. Instead of the house has a garden, which is passive, maybe the house opens onto a vibrant pocket garden. See? It's just flow, connection.
I like that. What about those little details, though? Like someone saying they have a balcony with a great view? How do we make that more compelling?
Good question. Our sources really stress being specific and hitting that emotional note. Is it a balcony offering panoramic city views that just twinkle at night?
Oh, nice.
Or maybe it's a secluded balcony, ideal for quiet contemplation, overlooking a canopy of trees. The words you choose aren't just describing, they're conveying the purpose or the feeling of that space. It's the difference between just listing features and actually sharing the experience through your words.
Okay, so moving out from the house itself, the neighborhood, how do we capture the essence of the whole area? It's definitely more than just busy or quiet.
Right, this is where understanding the kind of vibe is key.
Yeah.
Our materials show how word combinations, collocations are super powerful here.
Collocations, okay.
Yeah. So instead of just a busy street, maybe you live in a bustling downtown core or near a vibrant arts district. If it's quieter, maybe it's a leafy, family-friendly suburb or perhaps a serene residential enclave. It's putting words together that naturally fit and create a strong mental image for the listener.
So we're talking about more than just the physical stuff, the buildings and streets. It's the character.
Precisely. Think about what defines it. Is your neighborhood pedestrian-friendly with charming independent boutiques? Or maybe it's an up-and-coming area known for its lively street art and diverse eateries. You're not just describing, you're kind of crafting a mini-story about the place.
A mini-story, I like that.
And you can weave in those small sensory details unique to your area, like the aroma of freshly baked bread from the corner bakery maybe, or the distant hum of city life. These little things, drawn from your experience, that's what truly brings a neighborhood to life for someone else.
So wrapping this up then, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, with these ideas, you really do have the tools now to talk about your home's personality, your neighborhood's unique feel, with much more precision, more evocative power.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what a few Well-chosen adjectives, some dynamic verbs, and those strong collocations can actually do.
It really is.
And maybe this brings up a final thought for you to mull over. What specific feeling, what story do you really want to get across about your home, your area? Think about how these simple-sounding words can help you express not just the layout, but the actual essence, the atmosphere of your personal space, how you can invite others to connect with it, on a much deeper level.
Welcome, curious deep diver. Today, our mission really is to give you some clear, engaging ways to talk about, well, your room, that personal space. We're drawing on these really interesting examples you shared, just short, concise phrases about describing a room. The idea is to see why these simple bits of language work so well.
Exactly. And for you, the listener who's here to learn, it's about seeing the real power in simple words. We'll sort of unpack how just a few phrases can say a lot, not just about the room itself, but about you and the story it tells. It's about language doing a lot with a little.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. The first thing our source examples get into is the general feel, even for a small room. The example is, my room is small but comfortable. Now, small can sound a bit negative, right? So what makes adding but comfortable so effective here? How does that change things?
Well, what's fascinating there is how comfortable totally reframes it.
Yeah.
It's a pivot. You go from just a size, small, to an experience, comfortable. Yeah, you're tapping into feelings, warmth, ease, not just measurements. It guides the listener's perception straight away, bypassing any downside of the size. It's a shortcut to a feeling.
That makes sense, focusing on the experience. So you set the tone, but then how do you actually help someone see the layout? Our examples have these really direct ways, like there's a study table near the window, or my bed is next to the wardrobe. They're so simple, they almost instantly create a mental map, don't they?
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's all about using our natural spatial understanding, using words like near, next to, these relational terms. They give you context so efficiently.
Right.
You're essentially handing the listener a blueprint with just a few words. Their brain just slots the objects together.
Yeah, you can almost picture it immediately.
Exactly. It's like a quick walkthrough without needing lots of complicated description. Very economic.
Okay, so we've got the overall feeling, the basic layout. What about personality? Making it yours. The examples mention things like, I've decorated my room with lights and posters. That feels different. It adds character straight away.
And this brings up a really important point, I think. What do those simple details like lights and posters actually say? They're crucial for showing who you are. They're like signals, nonverbal cues.
Signals, okay.
Yeah, lights and posters aren't just things on the wall. They tell a story about your interests, your style, maybe what makes you happy. It's how you put your stamp on the space, without saying, my interests are X and Y. These little details make the description uniquely about you.
Right, they communicate passively.
Precisely.
So, wrapping this up for you, our deep diver. The main takeaway here seems to be the surprising power of keeping it simple and clear. You can create a really rich picture of your personal space without needing fancy words. Just be precise and maybe think about the feeling and the identity you want to share.
And that leads perfectly to a final thought for you to mull over. Think about your own room for a second. What's one specific thing in your space, an object, a detail, that if you described it in just a few simple words could maybe capture your whole personality or story? And maybe ask yourself why. Why does that one thing say so much? Give it a go. Try putting that sentence together. It might be quite revealing.
Dive. Today, we're taking a bit of a shortcut, actually. We're looking into how we talk about the places we live, our neighborhoods. We've been digging into some source material about, expressing your space in English, focusing right in on your immediate surroundings. Our goal here is really to pull out the key insights, the sort of linguistic tricks that let you paint a really vivid picture of a place. And it's not just about listing things, it's about conveying the feel of it, sometimes with just, a few simple words. It's surprisingly powerful. Okay, so let's unpack this idea of talking about your surroundings. Our sources highlight some really high utility vocabulary, words that do a lot of heavy lifting. Think about terms for actual places. You've got park, market, or maybe grocery store, school, hospital, library, cafe, pretty standard stuff. But then there are these other words, the ones that describe the atmosphere, and these seem, even more impactful. Peaceful, noisy, crowded, clean, safe.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is why this particular set of words is so effective. It's not random. They're like cognitive shortcuts. When you say park, you're not just naming a location with grass. You're instantly bringing up ideas of, recreation, maybe families, open space, community life, perhaps. And words like peaceful or safe, they tap directly into fundamental feelings, well-being, security. The sources really emphasize this. These words give immediate understanding. They plug right into how we instinctively size up a new place. It's about two things, really. What's there, the amenities, and what's it like, the atmosphere. Helps you build a quick mental map, the vibe of the place.
That's a really good point, the kind of emotional shorthand these words offer. But I wonder, does that simplicity sometimes risk being, well, too simple? Could peaceful, for example, mean boring to someone else?
That's a sharp question. Absolutely. I mean, park is pretty concrete, right? We mostly agree on what that is. But peaceful, that's tapping into emotion, personal experience. What feels peaceful to me might feel, I don't know, dead to someone else, or maybe just isolated. The source material seems to suggest these terms work because they carry broadly understood connotations. It's about the feeling they generally evoke. Their power, in a way, is that they do leave a little room for the listener to project their own positive associations onto them. The simplicity allows for that personal connection.
Okay, so we have this useful vocabulary, these sort of anchor words. But words don't usually just float on their own, do they? How do they actually combine to paint that bigger picture? The source material gives us examples of these words in action, and this is where you see it come together, I think. Weaving these words into simple sentences seems to capture the essence. Like, the sources give examples such as, my neighborhood is quiet and friendly. Simple, right? Or, there's a park nearby where children play, and we have a supermarket just 5 minutes away. And another one, it's a safe area with kind neighbors.
Exactly. And if you look at those examples, they're doing more than just listing facts. Quiet and friendly. That tells you something about the community's personality, not just the sound level. It implies something about the people. And safe area with kind neighbors, that's huge. It speaks to security, yes, but also that warmth, that sense of belonging. These very straightforward phrases, they communicate so much essential information, especially if you're trying to get a feel for a place you don't know. It's much more effective than just, reading off a list of street names or amenities. It's about the lived experience. It's like giving someone coordinates for their imagination, sketching out the daily life and the emotional weather of the place.
Right. So boiling it down, what this means for you, the listener, is that effectively expressing your space really comes down to mastering these linguistic brushstrokes. It's about combining that specific high-impact vocabulary, those anchors we talked about, with clear, direct sentences. You end up doing more than just stating facts. You're sort of inviting someone into the feeling of the neighborhood. It's efficient and it's emotional, packed into just a few carefully chosen words that, for some reason, really land.
And this actually brings up a really interesting final thought for you to maybe chew on. When you choose words to describe your own neighborhood, you're not just relaying information. You're also subtly signaling what you find important in a community. Think about it. Are you highlighting the quietness, the convenience, the friendliness? That says something about your values. And maybe even more profoundly, consider how your description might shape someone else's perception, their whole idea of that place, maybe influencing big decisions like visiting or even moving there, all before they've even set foot in it. How powerful is that description? Something to think about next time someone asks, so what's your neighborhood like?
Hey there.
Today, we're looking at something pretty common, actually, describing where you live, your home, your neighborhood.
Right. And we've got this single source. It's really just a short dialogue, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Super simple, like a little Q&A snippet showing someone how to talk about their living space.
Very conversational.
So our mission, if you will, is to sort of zoom in on this exchange. We want to pull out a useful pattern, something you can, grab and use right away.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Because describing where you live, it comes up, right?
Totally. Meeting new people, maybe prepping for a chat or just, casual conversation. Someone asked, so where do you live? This source gives us a nice little framework.
And it jumps right in. The source structure is basically question and answer, starting with, what's your house like?
Yep, straight to the point, the house itself.
And the answer in our source, it's quite concise.
It is. It says it's a small but lovely apartment.
Small but lovely. See that? It pairs a fact small with a feeling lovely right off the bat.
And it adds a couple of specifics. It has 2 bedrooms and a bright kitchen.
That bright kitchen detail, it's evocative, isn't it?
Yeah, much better than just a kitchen. Gives you a little sensory hit.
And then the personal touch. My favorite place is the balcony.
Right. So it's not just listing rooms. It's picking details that matter, that give you a sense, an image.
You start picturing it almost immediately. And then, naturally, the source dialogue expands.
It moves outwards.
Yeah.
The next question is, and your neighborhood.
Shifting focus from the inside to the outside?
And the answer. It kind of follows the same recipe, mixing facts and feelings.
It does. Starts with the overall vibe. It's peaceful and green.
Peaceful as a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Green, that's, well, visual.
Mm-hmm. Then some practical points. There's a school and a park close by. Things you can place on a map, sort of.
Anchors, yeah. And then the community aspect. People are friendly.
Ah, okay. So not just the physical environment.
Exactly. And that's where I think it gets really interesting. The description uses these qualitative words like lovely, bright, peaceful, friendly. It's about the experience.
That's a great point. It blends the physical description, bedrooms, park with these qualities. So the source really models this combination.
Yeah, moving from the personal space, the apartment, out to the neighborhood.
Which kind of brings up a question, doesn't it? Like, how do you pick the few details that really sum up your place? The source gives a model, but...
Right. How do you curate your own description? But the source does suggest this structure house first. Then neighborhood is a good, useful way to introduce your space.
It's presented as a template, basically. A way to share enough to connect, maybe without getting lost in the details.
Yeah. Keeps it efficient.
Not getting bogged down.
So, thinking about this for you, listening. What does this boil down to? You've essentially got this simple template now. Think about your own place. What is it? House, apartment, something else. Sure. Pick, say, 2 or 3 key things. Maybe a specific room like that bright kitchen or, I don't know, a view, a comfy chair.
Your favorite spot, perhaps.
Exactly. And then zoom out. Your neighborhood, what's the vibe? Peaceful, busy, what's nearby? A park, a noisy highway, friendly people.
Try putting it together using that structure. House details, then neighborhood feel. Blend the facts, like the number of rooms or a nearby park, with the feeling words lovely, convenient, quiet, whatever fits.
See how it lands in a conversation? It's about sharing a little slice of your world quickly and effectively.
So the key takeaway seems to be that mix. Specific details plus personal feeling, structured simply. House, then neighborhood context.
Yeah, it makes it relatable, gives a connection point. It's quick, it's personal.
It really is. Which makes me wonder, actually, it leaves you with a thought, perhaps.
Oh.
What if the way we choose to describe our home, the specific words and details we pick, actually starts to shape how we feel about living there? We sift through the noise to find what really counts.
Glad to be here.
So today we're doing a deep dive into something that honestly seems maybe too simple at first glance.
Right. There is, and there are.
Exactly. Foundational stuff, but, you know, for you listening, we're not just doing a grammar lesson.
No, definitely not.
We want to unpack how these common phrases are actually, well, pretty powerful tools. For precision, for clarity.
For painting a picture with words, it's about the subtle power in everyday language.
Yeah, even the really basic bits. Okay, let's unpack this. So looking through our source material today, some examples really jumped out. Yep. Not just because they're, you know, grammatically right, but because they're instantly clear, like these. There is a sofa in the living room.
Okay, 1 sofa.
Or there are 3 chairs on the balcony.
Right, multiple chairs.
Then you have, there's a beautiful garden outside.
Singular garden.
And there are many shops around.
Lots of shops, plural again.
See that pattern? It just immediately tells you what's there and how much, sort of, in one clean phrase.
Yeah.
But what's the real power here, communicatively speaking?
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is that it goes beyond just singular versus plural nouns. I mean, right. Yes, that is the basic rule.
Is for one, are for more than one. We get that.
But look deeper. These phrases, they function almost like existential statements. They introduce something.
Introduce? How so?
They bring an item or items into the scene you're describing. Often it's the first mention. It orients your listener immediately to what exists in that space.
Okay. Like setting the stage.
Precisely. And notice we say, there is water in the glass, even though water isn't, countable like chairs.
Ah, right. Not waters.
No. The is connects to water as a single concept, a mass noun. Yeah. So that simple is versus are choice. We let you be incredibly precise about single things, multiple things, even uncountable stuff.
No ambiguity.
Exactly. Crystal clear descriptions.
And here's where I think it gets really interesting for you, listening. When you master let's say, the utility of this, it seriously boosts how well you can describe your surroundings. Like, really precisely.
Absolutely. Think about it.
Yeah. Imagine you're, describing your new office setup to someone over the phone.
Okay.
Instead of just listing things vaguely, you can say, okay, look, there is a large monitor right here on my desk.
Clear mental image forming.
And there are maybe 3 plants over by the window.
Got it. Monitor, plants, location, instantly pictured.
It's that difference, isn't it, between someone having a fuzzy idea versus a really sharp mental picture.
Like a sketch versus a photograph. Yeah.
So connecting this to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
How we communicate effectively day to day.
Oh, it's fundamental. Absolutely key. If you want to build descriptions that are accurate, descriptions that people just get without having to struggle.
You need these tools.
You really do. It's not just about ticking the grammar box.
No.
It's about being, well, unmistakably clear. Which I think raises a pretty important question. How often do we just sort of glide over these simple building blocks? You know, the very tools that could make our communication so much sharper, so much more effective.
That's a good point. We focus on complex words maybe and miss the power in the basics.
Could be when you're sharing your home layout, what your neighborhood's like, every bit of that clarity helps the other person truly understand.
Yeah.
Really connect.
Right. So there you have it. A quick but hopefully impactful deep dive.
Indeed there is, and there are.
Using them confidently, vividly to describe your space, your home, your neighborhood, wherever, really.
Hope it helps you paint that clearer picture.
Definitely. Now, just a final thought for you to chew on.
Okay.
Think about how mastering these precise little tools, even ones that seem as simple as there is and there are, how that can genuinely change the clarity, the impact of how you share your world. And maybe ask yourself, what other small but, really mighty grammatical structures are just waiting out there?
Waiting for you to discover them.
Yeah. Ready to unlock even more power in how you communicate, how you make your words truly land. Something to think about.
Today, we're getting into something we all do pretty much constantly. How we talk about our homes, our neighborhoods. We've looked at a whole bunch of common questions, some typical answers people give. And the mission really is to pull out those key bits that can help you talk about your own space, maybe with a bit more clarity, more ease, and maybe find some surprising meaning in there too. You know the kind of questions I mean, right? Like, where do you live? Simple stuff. Do you live in a house or an apartment? What's your room like? Oh, and is your area busy or quiet? Also, what places are near your home? They feel so standard, almost basic, but wow, they can tell you a lot.
They really can. And what's so interesting, I think, is how these very simple questions, they're often the absolute starting point, the first step to understanding someone's, daily life, their surroundings, even their lifestyle. It's not just about giving an address. It's an invitation.
An invitation.
Yeah, an invitation to connect, maybe build a bit of rapport, to paint a picture in someone's mind. They really set the stage for more.
Absolutely. And the example answers we looked at, they show just how much more you can say with just one extra detail. So instead of just, I live in a flat, you might hear, I live in a flat in Nairobi. Right? Or not, I live in a house, but I live in a small house with my family. And then there's things like, my room is simple but clean. Or it's a quiet area with lots of trees. So what's going on when people add those little bits? What's the impact?
Well, this is where it gets pretty revealing. Take a flat in Nairobi.
Yeah.
You say that, and you're not just giving a location. You're instantly activating, a whole network of ideas for the listener. They might think of, the city vibe, the culture, maybe specific images come to mind. It gives this geographic anchor and a subtle cultural backdrop that just saying a flat doesn't offer. It lets the other person start building a much richer mental picture.
So it's like giving them a shortcut to understanding your world in a way.
Precisely. And it's not just about place. Think about a small house with my family. That's not just describing size, is it? It often hints at priorities.
Priorities? Like what?
Well, it could suggest maybe a focus on being together, practicality, perhaps a closer-knit way of living. It's different from, say, describing a huge place focused on individual rooms. And when someone says, my room is simple but clean, that's more than just, tidiness. It hints at personal taste, maybe discipline, or even a kind of minimalist approach. It's a little window into their habits, perhaps even their values.
I see. So these details, they're not just descriptions. They're almost like signals, telling a bigger story than the words themselves.
Exactly right. And this really ties into a basic idea in good communication. People often call it show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell, right.
Yeah, so instead of just telling someone your area is peaceful, if you describe a quiet area with lots of trees, You let them feel that peace. Through imagery, they can almost hear the quiet, picture the green. So for you, listening, understanding this means picking just one or two specific details, like Nairobi or lots of trees.
Yeah.
That can take a standard answer and make it way more vivid, memorable, more resonant. It really helps you express your own space much more effectively. It's about choosing details that, well, that land.
Okay, that makes total sense for making things clear, making them vivid. But is there a risk of adding too much detail sometimes? Could get overwhelming. Or maybe you feel like you're sharing too much. We don't want every answer to be a novel.
That's a really good point. Balance is definitely key here. The aim isn't to just, unload every single fact. It's about picking the details that are most impactful, the most relevant to the conversation you're having.
You're right.
Exactly. It's the curation of details that has power. The right one or two specifics, much more powerful than a whole paragraph of less relevant stuff. It's about finding that sweet spot where you spark interest, paint that picture, but without, getting bogged down. And it allows for a better conversation, right? It lets the other person ask follow-up questions if they're curious.
So pulling this all together then, it seems pretty clear that these simple ways we describe our places, when you add just a touch of that specific, carefully chosen detail, they suddenly have a lot more power. They go beyond just facts. They start telling a deeper story, inviting people in.
Which leads to, I think, a really important question for you to chew on. Think about this. What might the specific details you choose to share about your home, your area, what might they subtly reveal? Beyond the literal meaning, what do they say about your values, your lifestyle, maybe even the wider culture you're part of? What deeper stories are you actually telling when you just say something simple like a quiet area with lots of trees or a small house with my family? What are you really communicating? Something to think about.
Today, we're getting into something really personal, something you probably interact with every single day, but maybe don't think too deeply about your home. It's easy to just see it as, walls and a roof, maybe some furniture.
Right, just the physical structure.
Exactly. But what if it's way more than that? What if it's actually like a deep reflection of you?
Well, that's exactly where our source material jumps in. It pushes past the physical right away. It talks about your home being your comfort zone. Sure, we get that, but also your energy space.
Energy space.
Yeah, and your safe place. And what's interesting is how it argues that everything matters, whether your place is, big or small, modern or traditional. It all fundamentally reflects who you are.
Huh. Like an outward sign of what's going on inside.
Precisely. It's not just your conscious taste, like picking a sofa. The source suggests it often taps into your subconscious priorities, too.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive, then. Let's unpack that connection, that link between our identity and our living space.
And also the surprising power it holds for human connection.
Right. Okay, let's dig in. So this idea that our homes reflect our subconscious.
Right.
How does the source material actually, explain how that works? Is it just about decorating, or is it deeper?
Oh, it definitely goes deeper. That's where it gets really fascinating. Our sources look at how even, mundane habits, things we don't even think about, become these big statements.
Like what?
Well, think about the classic junk drawer. We all kind of have one, right?
Guilty.
The source argues that's not just clutter. It might be a little window into how you prioritize convenience over perfect order, maybe. Or perhaps it shows a bit of a struggle with letting go of things. Or take an untouched guest room, maybe, that reveals this deep down desire for connection, even if guests don't actually show up that often.
Wow.
The argument is basically that our living spaces act like mirrors. They show us not just who we want to be seen as, but who we kind of are right now.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It's not just the curated stuff we put on display.
No.
It's what we do and don't do in that space.
Which, okay, that brings us back to the safe place and energy space ideas. Are those just feelings, or does the source define them more concretely?
That's a great question. And yeah, the source tries to make them tangible, not just vague concepts. So a safe place isn't just about having good locks.
Right.
It's about specific things that create psychological security. Some studies point to things like controlled access, knowing who's coming and going, or even personalized sensory stuff, like a scent you find calming, or maybe specific background noise that makes you feel totally at ease. It contributes to that feeling of real refuge.
Okay, that makes sense. And the energy space. Is that like feng shui or something?
Less mystical, actually, and more about the quantifiable impact of the environment on you, on your internal state.
How so?
The sources highlight things we kind of know intuitively, maybe, like how natural light affects your mood, or having plants around, even just how you arrange the furniture can directly impact your focus or your creativity or just your ability to truly relax. So it's about optimizing your own little habitat.
Exactly. For your actual inner well-being, not just for show.
Which ties back to authenticity.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other part of our mission was this surprising power for human connection. How does talking about our homes, these really personal spaces, actually deepen relationships?
Yeah, this is maybe one of the most compelling bits. The source material really emphasizes that sharing details about your home can be this kind of unique shortcut.
Shortcut.
Yeah, a shortcut to vulnerability and real connection. Think about it instead of just generic small talk.
Like the weather.
Right. If you describe why a certain thing in your home matters, maybe it's a chipped mug with a funny story or a weird piece of art that reminds you of a trip.
Yeah.
You kind of bypass the superficial stuff. It reveals your values, your memories, your passions, but in a way that doesn't feel like you're being put on the spot.
So it's a less threatening way to share who you really are.
Exactly. A non-threatening way to share your inner world.
So it's less about showing off nice things.
Definitely not about showing off.
And more about the emotion and the story that's wrapped up in the physical space.
Precisely. The source argues that people don't just bond over like having the same hobbies, they bond over shared human experiences.
Yeah.
So when you talk about how you, I don't know, turn a messy corner into your favorite reading spot, or you talk about the chaos and joy a certain room has seen,
Right.
You're tapping into really universal things: creation, comfort, family, belonging. It helps other people see a deeper, more relatable side of you. It builds empathy.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah, to kind of wrap up that core idea, your home really is this deeply personal extension of you. It speaks volumes, often without you even realizing it.
About your authentic identity.
And it highlights this universal human need we all have for a space that reflects our inner world, you know? That gives us that sense of comfort and belonging.
And the really crucial takeaway from our source: talking about it with pride and emotion creates a real human connection. Just let that sink in. So what does this actually mean for you listening right now?
Well, it leaves us with a pretty important question to ponder, doesn't it? Think about how sharing the unique story, the real significance of your personal space, how that might actually deepen your connections with other people.
Offering them a glimpse into your authentic self.
Exactly. So the question is, how might expressing the genuine emotion you feel for your home unlock totally new levels of connection in your conversations?
That brings us to the end of episode 50 of SpeakNest English Podcast Zone. We hope you're now confident talking about your home and your neighborhood. In our next episode, we'll explore how to speak English confidently at school or college, perfect for students and learners alike. Until then, practice with a friend, speak from your